Welcome back to Matt's workshop. Today I just want to quickly show you something that I've made to help me use my router to cut circles. So some of the circles I've cut, I've used some coasters from timber that I've laminated together. Those coasters were cut using my circle cutting jig, which is what this video is about. That's just one of the uses. So the other use is something similar that you can do here. This is the project that I'll show you. So you've got like a server that you can put nuts, M&Ms, that sort of thing at a party. You can use round tins. Some of the other ones that we use is you can just fill them with bowls and put whatever you like on it. It's a great little server for parties and that sort of thing. So I'm going to show you how I set up the circle cutting jig to use with the router. Great Christmas gift ideas. You can make some coasters for family or friends, or even one of these servers. The jig I've got is able to cut currently circles up to 70 centimeters in diameter, so 700 millimeters. Sorry for those people that talk inches. Here in Australia I deal with millimeters. So just put this one aside and I'm going to show you the circle cutting jig and just give you an idea on how I made it. So I've actually got the 850 watt router attached to it at the moment. Using the plastic surface that was on the bottom of the router, I've taken it off and I've used it with this 4mm plastic that I had lying around the shed. Not exactly sure of the exact material, but it's a very good solid piece of plastic, very rigid. You could use a piece of MDF particle board or something similar. So I've used this and traced around it on the plastic, cut this all out with the jigsaw, then drilled holes 10mm apart, 1 centimeter apart, using a 6mm straight cutting router bit. So the dimensions that I've now got written on there are the diameter of the circle that's going to be cut. So the one here, which is 12, that's a 12 centimeter diameter, and I end up with something similar to this coming out of the router using a straight cutting bit. Very easy to make. And then just using the original screws that held on the base plate of the router, I've attached that to it. So the way you would cut a circle using this jig would be to screw it down to the board in the corresponding hole of the size that you want. Let's say it was 12mm, and then you'll be able to turn the router when it's running to the right depth. To the right diameter. So first of all, I'm thinking depth. You need to set the router to the depth of cut that you want, whether it's all the way through or partly the way through of the thicker board, like I've done on the 3-bowl server. Locking that in place, setting the height adjustment stop so that if you do have to come up for any reason, when you go down, you don't have to reset the depth, you can just go down to the stop. So what I'm going to do now is just jump to the video I've taken of me making the 3-bowl server and give you an idea on the things that you could make. Christmas is nearly here, so maybe it's time to make some coasters, maybe a large round cheese board or something similar. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you need any more information on the router jig that I've made, just drop me a line. This can be adjusted to any router. All you need to do is follow the same principles, which is have something attached to your base plate that you can pivot the router on. So here we go. So this is a board that I've laminated together, clamped together for about 4 hours before I'm attaching the circle cutting jig. Yeah, so we attach that to the base of the router, and then we put the screw in the pivot point we want. First of all, we'd need to mark up exactly where we want to cut, what the depth of the cut is going to be. I also set stop on the router so that if I do have to come up and come back down, that the depth is already set. So just mark out where you want the holes to be cut, and that's where your pivot point will, or your pivot screw will go down. This is where a nice clear piece of perspex would be ideal, but the one I've made is out of white plastic, so it's a little bit hard sometimes to see the hole. Safety gear is important, but power is also important, so we better go turn that on. And then start plunging the router down, lock it in place, and start your cut. So it moves very freely, very easy to use, and then I repeat the process for all 3 holes. Then using the router without the pivot point in place, just using the straight cutting bit, I cut the rest of the stock out to make the depression of each hole. That would then cut out, of course, the screw point that was already in the hole, that was used for the hold the router jig in place. So now, just to tidy it up, I'm going to take the straight cutting bit out, place in a chamfer bit which has got a ball bearing on the end, which will guide the chamfer around the inside of the cut that I've already made. So just setting the depth that I want to cut. Good idea to clean up any debris just so that it runs smoothly with the bearing. Safety gear again, and start the router and plunge it down, and then using the ball bearing, keep it hard up against the cut that you've already made, and you get a nice chamfered edge. Do that for all 3, and then of course it's time for beloved sanding. Every woodworker loves to sand, and it is the sanding that makes the final finish. So I start with a coarse grit, and then work my way up to the finest. So there we have it, all 3 holes are cut out, and a nice chamfered edge, a little bit of a burn mark. The edges aren't quite as aligned as I wanted them to be, but some of that will be taken out with sanding. Now this little sander from Zito is great because it's got a point on it. There are other brands out there, I haven't tried those, but I've been really happy with this one. It's probably one of the most common, one of my favourite sanders in the shed at the moment. So the edges weren't quite aligned when I laminated them together, so rather than cut that, I'm just going to quickly remove some of the stock with the belt sander, but this can leave some scratches, so you need to again work up from coarse to finer grit. Don't go too coarse because it will scratch your timber, and once that's finished, finish it off with the other sander. It gives it a much smoother finish, because belt sanders don't usually go up to 240 grit. So your little palm sander or a little mouse sander, you can use a much finer grit paper on it, and it gives it a much smoother finish, ready for oiling, painting, staining, whatever you like. So there you have it. I hope you've learned something about cutting circles using the router and the circle cutting jig that I've made to suit my router, which can be adapted to fit any router that you have. You can either cut coasters, again the 3-bowl server, which I've actually just finished in just a tung oil, which is a good food preparation service oil. So if you wanted to, you could actually use this server as it was. I don't know, small nibblies or something like that, but much more durable and easier to clean if you keep it all in the bowls. So just using tung oil, just wiping it on, leaving it for about 2 hours before wipe some of the excess off, and then recoating in 12 hours. The good thing about tung oil is, rather if you have a scratch or anything, you can quite easily touch it up with that. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you've learnt something, and thanks for visiting Matt's workshop. Hopefully I've got another project coming up soon. If you like the video, press like, and don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.